I've been thinking a lot about blessing and how we as dads can unconditionally bless our children. And let me listen, I'm not talking about affirming. There's this crazy movement out there called the affirming movement, where dads affirm the sin of their children. They affirm poor choices. I completely, categorically, adamantly disagree with any father who's going to affirm a sin in their children's lives. So when I talk about unconditionally affirming or unconditionally blessing, I'm talking pouring out your blessing upon your children based on who they are and who you see them as being. So let me explain what I mean. I'm talking about 5 things that you can do to unconditionally bless your child. Number 1 is this: get physical. What I mean by that is offer a meaningful touch to your kids. One of the things that we did when the kids were growing up in our household, we would have breakfast together. As a pastor, I want to say every day of the week, but the reality of it is it was about 3 to 4, probably 5 days a week when they were in elementary school, 4 days a week in high school and junior high, because it got a little crazy during that season. But we would get together for breakfast, which I would cook, and we would do a short devotional, which I would lead, and we'd have a prayer time, and we'd hold hands and pray. At the end of our prayer time, we would squeeze each other's hands 3 times, and the 3 times meant, I love you. So that was one meaningful way that we express physical touch to our children. Another way is this. I see my kids now fairly often. They're local. And when I see my sons and their daughters and my granddaughter and my grandson, I offer a strong, lingering embrace. So with the daughters, I give them a real strong side hug. With my sons, every time I see them, I embrace them. I call it hug and hold. And then the other thing I do is this, and this is another great thing for you. Whether your teens are doing awesome, whether your children are struggling, wherever your kids may be, look them in the eye and smile when you see them. It's not a physical touch, but it's an intangible touch, eye to eye, that says, "Man, I like you. I enjoy being around you, and I'm really I'm blessed that you are my son or my daughter." So this non-physical, non-verbal contact. So get physical. Number 2 is this. Here's a second way that you can unconditionally bless your child. I talked about the physical, non-verbal. Now let's talk about the verbal. Here's a couple things I want to say to you. Say I love you to your kids until it's boring. Like, say it all the time. Text them, end your text with I love you, because you never know when your I love you is the last I love you that you will ever offer them. So say I love you. Speak their language. So Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that they should go. According to their bent is what it literally means. And when they are older, they will not depart from it. Speak their language. My youngest son, Colton, the best way for me to engage him is just be in his presence, spend quality time with him, and not say anything. And then he will open up. My middle son, Darby, is an introvert, but whenever I'm around him, he just instantly, the introvert in him starts coming out because he feels like he's around a safe person. So he just shares and shares and shares. It's wonderful. He just talks most of the time. My oldest son, James, really connects on an emotional, spiritual level. He loves to talk about the deeper things, and I engage in his life by asking him the deeper questions of life, and he really loves doing that. So another thing is know what their gifts are. What are your kids gifted in? And call those gifts out in them. My son Colton is a natural servant. I realize that's not a spiritual gift, but he's a natural servant. So calling that natural servant, my middle son Darby is a natural planner. In fact, we joke, Darby's got a plan. Darby, what's the plan? Do you have a plan, Darby? What's the plan? Plan. And then James is just this bold, assertive go-getter. He's like the big risk taker in the family. So if I need boldness to take a risk, I ask James. If I need to make a plan, I ask Darby. If I have something that needs fixing, which happens a lot, I ask Colton. So know their gifts. And I say the last thing is this, and this is something that we can probably start implementing around the teen years, is if your child has an area of expertise that is beyond you, ask their advice. Ask their advice. Colton is amazing with cars. Darby's amazing with money. James is amazing in deep relationships. So I will often come to them and say, hey, I need some help in this area because you know Dad. So it's a great way to verbally affirm them and verbally bless who they are. Number 3, get tough. Attach high value and expectation to your children. The biggest struggle I see with good parents is they think that somehow by calming the waters, they're going to make their children better, and that's just not true. When you give your kid a $20,000 car and don't mandate him to pay for the gas or pay for the insurance, you're not helping your son or daughter. So get tough, attach high value. What do I mean by that? I mean push them. Call them up to a higher level. See something in them that they do not see in themselves and push them to that higher level. Challenge them. It's okay that if your kid is in a competition and they get third, that you do not let them take the participation trophy home. Let them know that there is value in exceeding, that everybody in the real world puts forth effort, but the people who get the effort don't get the prize. It's the people who win. It's the people who go over and above to exceed and excel what others are doing. So challenge them to be that kind of person. And then here's the last thing, and I know this sounds cruel. We need to let our kids suffer. We need to let them make the decisions that they're going to make as they get older and suffer the consequences, whether they're 2 years old and we say, don't touch that, and they touch it. Oh, that burned. Well, I told you not to touch it. Or, hey, I told you not to, date a non-Christian girl and this relationship spirals. Well, you're in a situation now, but letting your kids make guided choices based upon age appropriateness, and let them suffer the consequences for their choices. It is not your role to bulldoze down their problems. It is not your role to hover like a helicopter, and it's not your role to hand out participation trophies for no effort. Okay, so get tough. And I think the millennial guys and the Gen Z guys, I have learned so much from you about taking vacation, investing in your relationships. You have taught me so much in that area. I'm forever grateful, right? Take full days off, take 2 days off, do these things. But if I can teach you anything, it's don't be soft on your kids. You're going to ruin them. You're going to create entitled, spoiled little brats. Okay, so that's me to you. Thank you for offering your stuff to me. Number 4 is this: get prophetic. What do I mean by that? Speak to them of a special future. One of the ways we see the great men and heroes of the Bible blessing their children is to speak of a better future. So when you look at your kids, when you see their gifts, when you see their abilities, when you see their talents, when you see their spiritual gifts, when you see their heart and their personality and their passion, speak to a greater future. Give them a dream that they may not realize is out there until you begin to empower them in that direction. Do not be afraid to speak great things over your kids. Number 5 is this: get boring. You've heard me say this before. Get boring in your commitment to them. Become the dad who shows up physically, like you are physically there. You show up to their events. You show up to the weekends. You show up. You're a dad who shows up to at least one meal a day while the kids are growing up. Show up mentally. In other words, after work, do not mentally check out. Be physically and mentally present. What you do from 5 to 9 every night will be spoken of at your funeral service when you die. You cannot, and it only happens in the stress bubble. So you have a 20 to 25 year window to mentally show up, and it will be the most difficult window of your life. The stress bubble is the enemy, and that's why we're here to guide you out of it. Show up spiritually. Guys, listen. New statistics are coming out, which is super exciting, telling us we are really making an impact. Young guys today are attending church at a more regular basis than the women. That's never happened before in the history of America, so I'm super thankful for that. I think that God is using us to hopefully make a small dent in that area. But guys, you need to show up spiritually. You need to be the ones going to church. You need to be the ones leading your family spiritually. It is your role to show up spiritually, and that is a blessing to your kids when they see that. Lastly is show up emotionally. Be a man who is emotionally engaged, who does the things I share with you, the physical touch, the verbal affirmations, getting tough with your kids, but then being there to help them and nurture them along the path of their own poor choices and consequences. Show up and be a stable emotional force for your kids. So guys, 5 ways you can bless your kids. Get physical, get verbal, get tough, get prophetic, and get boring with your commitment to them. Guys, if you know a bro who's struggling in this area to bless unconditionally, please copy the link of this podcast, send it over to him, help him to be the dad that you are becoming. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor, hear the deafening roar of the crowd, taste the sweetness of victory, smell the stench of battle. Get in the game, get dirty, grind it out, be a blessing, and be a man.